This falls into the category of the stupid stuff that you do. Now, I've been looking for ways of getting more power, and there's a few transformers that are coming this way. If you stick with the conventional logic in model railroading, if I get the kind of amperage I need to run my trains where I want, I'm going to have to spend like $400, right, to get a high amperage, high quality transformer that was designed for model railroading. And of course, the engineer in me says, you know, AC is AC. So back in the day, I used to be involved with things like CNC machine tools, and I was a manufacturing engineer and a bunch of other stuff, and we had to build systems to move stuff around. And one of the companies out there was Superior Electric in Bristol, Connecticut, and they used to sell something called a Variac, and that was a speed controller for a motor, right? Thought back, and my God, those things could crank out the real serious amps. So I went looking online for Variacs, and I ran up to this thing right here. It's a made in China transformer or Variac that goes from 0 to 130 volts, can crank out 20 amps. That's a lot. And I look inside, I just see this big, massive coil, and thought to myself, well, it wasn't meant for model trains, but AC is AC. Let's just see if we can get one of these for its $70 and see if it runs a train. And so we hooked it up. I'm not going to go through all the gymnastics I went through to determine which is common, which was positive, and stuff like that. If you can't figure that out, you shouldn't be doing this. So I got it hooked up, turned it on. It's got a voltmeter on there, but I don't trust it. I'm going to use my own. And sure enough, you know, AC is AC, 60 hertz is 60 hertz, and 12 to 15 volts on this Variac is the same as 12 to 15 volts AC off a transformer designed for that. And I only spent $70 for this monster. You can get them smaller, you can get them bigger. You can even get them with the right kind of leads. It's just they were sold out, so I figured I'll just take some cords and I'll phase them. And I'll phase the transformer to match these, and then start plugging in tracks. Now, what dawned on me is, okay, I've got a supply of both voltage and amperage, which is going to be way, way, way more than what I need, right? So now maybe I can come up with a controller to go in between this and the track. And then maybe what I end up with is a transformer that's just as beefy, just as heavy, and capable of handling high amperage output consistently for a long time as a design for model trains transformer might be for, my God, a third the cost, if even that. Like I said, I got this delivered for $70. You can get a smaller version with the one plug, like a 500 watt. This is rated at 2,000 watts. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. I'm probably going to end up pinning it so I can't get past 20 volts. And I'm going to change the fuse out from a 20 amp fuse to like maybe a 10 amp fuse so I don't fry things. And we're going to have some fun with this, I think. But what can I say? All right, so I've got about 15 or 20 minutes and I'm not seeing any smoke, and these guys actually are running smoother for whatever reason than they were with the other transformer. Now, I'm not recommending this approach, and for that matter, I'm going to say, unless you have a really good idea what's going on, do not play this game at home. This is not something that would make sense for a lot of people. One of the things you have to do if you take this approach is to figure out which of the legs is actually producing the voltage and which is the common and ground. So before you make your connection to the track, you got to figure that out, because the outside rail has to go to common or ground, and the middle rail has to be off the pin that's creating the voltage, and you have to figure that out with the multimeter before you come up with a connection. I will just say that much. And the second thing is, I'm going to replace that 20 amp fuse with like a 6 or 8 amp fuse, something a little bit smaller to protect this stuff. Not a recommended approach, but it makes me laugh that I've got more power right here for 70 bucks than it would cost me almost 400 bucks to get with a brand name transformer. Now, of course, they don't have functions, but you see, that's going to be part of the game. Let's see if we can come up with a couple of these to run the trains, but then do our own controls, you know, over time. I do have some other power options on the way. There's an old Marx transformer that I've purchased that has an overload protect. You know, that's actually a good idea. Well, this one's fused, but I'm going to actually test it to make sure it does what it's supposed to do. But I don't know what to say. This is funny for me. And you know, these are probably not the highest quality. One of the things you get with like some of the higher quality Lionel transformers is like rollers on the contact and the coil instead of just a slider. I really don't know what they have on the inside of this, but it's copied after like a Superior Electric Variac, and those things were almost indestructible. So we'll see. I don't have a lot of money into it, but this is going to be fun. And the whole point here is you can do model railroading for not a lot of money. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to have fun kit bashing stuff and making things work. I added up all the locomotives I have, you know, this last couple of months when I went crazy buying Alcos. I got around 500 bucks in the stuff. So for under $1,000, I've got 2,000 watt transformer and a whole bunch of Alcos to go pull cars around. How do you like that? Model railroading on the cheap, and part of the fun for me is to make stuff like this work, is to add a little bit of fun to the hobby versus just buy somebody else's design and somebody else's greatest widget, you know. It's just simple stuff. This is not rocket science, you know. So anyway, I figured you might have fun with that. We're going to get another one of these, I think. I can buy them for $100 that actually has leads instead of these plugs. But I don't know, maybe I'll get one that's a 500 watt or a 1,000 watt smaller one. I don't need the 2,000 watt. It's just what was available. What a beast. So anyway, bye for now. So let's load this track up with a few amperage draws in the form of powered units. We got 1, 2, 3, and got the Variac off. Let's get to 12 volts and see if it'll do it. Of course it will. Volts. Now, I've got an oscilloscope on the way, and before I completely put the load on this thing right here, I want to check the waveform and see how similar it is to a Lionel transformer. It should be the same as the transformer. They're not changing that. But every electrical device has different characteristics. But if it's got good waveform, where it's not going to do any damage to those motors, what the heck? This is big power. And then we can do a do-it-yourself set of controls to do things like a forward and reverse and a capacitor for whistle and stuff like that. We can make that happen. And definitely got to come up with a different way of mounting that thing. And maybe we get one for each track. You know, just think about it. How much would you have to spend to get a 2,000 watt capable transformer from any of the different model railroading companies? Of course, they have all their features, and especially with the new ones. And but with the old stuff, damn, how do you beat that? I mean, we can put an interrupt in there for forward and reverse. You know, we can probably find an old Lionel control unit for the old transformers to stick in the line for whistle and direction control, right? So anyway, I don't recommend this just yet, but I'm having fun with it. And this is a nice addendum to the video I just did where I was taking that poor KW and running it out of power, running it right into the overload and circuit breaker, popping on and turning on that red light. That's not happening with this beast. So anyway, one thing I do notice with this goofy thing is the low speed operation is better. And I mean, I can make this thing crawl. And that's not something that typically is possible with those old pull-more motors. They don't do that well, but that kind of thing just works a little bit better. I really don't have a reason why, but it does. And I think we're going to have fun with this goofy thing.